It is the morning of Saturday, May 23rd, 2015. I'm Alex Ansary in southern Colorado. I'm going to talk a little bit about this solar cycle that we're in and some of the changes that we're seeing right now on the planet, in our country. And I saw someone else in the alternative media post on Facebook, that he's doing a show tonight talking about all these different things that are expected to come to pass, expected to happen around the time period of September 2015. So there's conversations there like what CERN's up to, this announcement from the Pope, Jade Helm 15. And on another note, on the geopolitical end, with the United States about to send jets out to the South China Sea in response to what China's doing, building these artificial islands, the U.S. goes over there and says, stop what you're doing. China's like, screw you. And on top of that, we're going to jam your drone. A lot of news like that I'm posting over at amtvmedia.com, also thedailymatrix.com, the latter being my personal website. And I feel I need to catalog what's going on. That's why I'm doing that at that website. I need to catch up on the last week's news. Lots of stuff happening within days of the last solar flare. I saw a lot of stuff, a lot of news relating to fighting, conflict, people pushing each other, and a lot of stuff happening in Texas on a number of different fronts. So I noticed patterns like that, patterns of intensity in certain parts of the planet, certain parts of the country, and there's not a lot of people connecting the dots with this. For a lot of people that are looking at reality in a very linear, like we're all building up to some giant bang, like this is dynamite, and there is a cyclical pattern to this, and we see within the years of solar maximum, and for me that's between 2 and 4 years. Depending on the solar cycle. Not every solar cycle is has the same amount of solar flares or has the same impact on our planet. The fact of the matter is, as a whole, humans don't understand how we're impacted by the sun. And that's something that I specialize in studying, and I'm going to use this additional time, for example, this moment that we're in right now, to expand on some of these ideas. We're affected by what's happening with the solar cycle itself, the totality of it, not necessarily one individual solar flare. So there could be a series of solar flares, that lingering energy that has trickled down into our Earth's magnetic field and then impacts us, because we're directly connected with this and we have a field of energy around our own body. There is a residual effect. So a lot of things that you're seeing, there could be things taking place in the planet that are affected by the solar cycle, but there may not be any solar flares in, say, the last 24 hours, or 48, or 72. But there may have been a bunch of intense energy that came in the weeks prior, the days earlier, or something to that effect, and the energy is still there. Now, I notice with some of these wars that are launched and events that are staged, also known as false flags, a high number of them, as well as shootings, taking place around the time period of solar flares. And the effect of a false flag, the amount of fear that's generated, you add the media as well, that adds fuel to the fire. The effects of that solar flare lingers for days to weeks to months. It may start with that one event, but they just keep adding more and more gasoline to the fire, as long as the people are reacting to that. So right now we're in a solar maximum period. Regardless of the fact that you may read articles saying that the sun is quiet, at this particular moment in time, everything is right in line. Everything is I don't want to say easy to predict, and I don't have a crystal ball. No one has a crystal ball. But NASA was accurate when they said that 2015 would be a solar maximum year, that the solar cycle would be a cycle where we would see a double peak. And what that means is 2 peaks in one solar cycle. Not just the intensity at one point, but going up and then going back down and then back up. So they released that chart sometime in the updated one in 2013, and that's the one that I shared at the Free Your Mind conference. And here we are, about in the middle of the year of 2015, heading towards fall, and there's so much focus on these events again in September in 2015. And I hope this video, this information that I'm sharing, helps people make sense, understand the cyclical nature of certain things. In order to help them stay outside that catastrophobia box that I see humanity falling into every solar maximum. And we saw it during Y2K. And I think that people were, and there was also a lot of talk about the sun and its activity around that time period of Y2K. So there were people getting prepared then for a potential blackout, not necessarily as a result of Y2K, but as a result of a solar flare. Even back then, the awareness of the sensitivity of our grid to, a massive solar flare that is long overdue. It's been around for several decades, and I believe that it is in the collective consciousness that we are tapping into this reality for a reason. Tapping into this truth. I'm aware of the television show Revolution, and I work to stay away from pop culture. I will at some point watch the series and talk a little bit about some of the predictive programming that is in that series. But there's more reasons than just simply predictive programming as to why certain things are put out there for public consumption. But be aware that a lot of things in this world are cyclical, and that's what we're seeing right now with a lot of these staged events, because someone out there is making the decision when to have the drill. And I want you to think back, and how's your memory, by the way? It's something that we all might want to ask ourselves, when we're living in a world of, so many poisons and toxins. We need to remain healthy. We need to drink healthy water, stay away from intoxicants as much as possible. Progress, not perfection, but we need to maintain sound body and spirit. Sound mind, body, and spirit, and that involves having a decent memory, holding on to our memories, remembering where we came from, remembering the patterns, understanding the patterns, developing pattern recognition, becoming more conscious, not allowing this world to dumb us down and traumatize us. And I'll tell you what, trauma, mild levels of PTSD, which large chunks of this population are suffering from, that does stunt brain growth. Yes, it does. So there's an effect to the trauma that is intentional, and we need to be aware of that. So we need to be able to remember where we came from and the patterns that we've already seen. And I can remember the tear of the swine flu scare. Not so much the swine flu, but the military using that to enforce or invoke martial law. And we saw all the signs that is exactly what we thought would happen by the fall of 2009. And that's not what happened. They got their executive order and they pushed it to the side, and then all of a sudden it ceased to become a main #1 news headline. And then there was Comet Elenine of 2011, and a lot of things that surrounded that, and the drills. And there was also a massive drill around the middle of America, an earthquake drill that had all these different disaster agencies. People were predicting that they were going to have a martial law scenario after they basically stage an earthquake or create an earthquake. I'm not here to debunk the concept of the New World Order, because I've been talking about these things for years, but it's dangerous. It's dangerous to get into these patterns every fall. And I think there's a reason why humanity falls into these patterns of getting freaked out around September, October. I'm noticing patterns of people posting lots of fake news around these time periods, and I think instinctually, and I've mentioned this 2 years ago, when we were going through the whole scare of October 2013, and during that time, it was, 15,000 Russian troops were, supposedly going to invade the United States. That disinformation took away from the real news that people should be looking at, like troops from Russia training at Fort Carson this way in the year 2012. That was admitted. But of course, all this disinformation is out there getting people freaked out. What's not disinformation is that Jade Helm is taking place. What's not disinformation is that CERN is working to open up these portals and is involved in some pretty weird science. What's not disinformation is that, there is a cycle to these economic recessions every 7 years, hence this focus on economic collapse, September 2015. But when people put all this focus into one time period, They can get lost in fear. They could forget the fact that some of these things are being designed. And some people have yet to figure out that there is a connection between staged events and solar flares. And I think I've given you a lot of evidence. I think I've given you a lot of links. Look at all the stuff taking place right now and about to kick off in September. You know, the planned events, the man-made events, the not anomalies, not the supernatural, the planned events of man, of the New World Order, relating to war, martial law drills, things of that nature, and look at the solar cycle, that we're at the tail end of solar cycle 24. I think, I'll make a prediction, I think we're going to survive this, and I think that we're going to be around to tell the tale, and I think that it's important for me to talk about how a lot of these events are being staged during these time periods in order to get us to react. Because there is a way that we are impacted by these solar flares, by these cosmic changes, and in another video I'm going to be continuing to talk about that, because this is the time to have this conversation. All right, I'm Alex Anxieties signing off from Southern Colorado. See you in the next video.